Hi, friends. Welcome to Immigration News by Ting Law. We want to explain what's going on with the new rule on the work authorization eligibility for asylum seekers. Now, this goes into effect on August 25th. The rule was proposed in June earlier this year. Now, let me give you some background. When someone applies for asylum, they can only apply for asylum within 1 year of entry date. So if someone entered January 1st, 2020, then they have until January 1st, 2021 to apply for something called asylum. If they don't apply with that 1 year rule, then it's called something else, withholding removal. But then that would be through the court system, immigration court. And with that being said, if they file after the 1 year rule, then they don't have the eligibility at all. They are not eligible to apply for work authorization, also known as work permit. Now, let's say people who apply for asylum and then they are later eligible to apply for work authorization. They actually cannot apply at the same time. They have to wait 150 days after they apply for asylum. So, but this rule that goes into effect on the 25th of August changes it from 150 days to 365 days. It's a much longer time period for someone to have the ability to work. Yes, they came here in fear of their country, of whatever was going on. I will give them the benefit of doubt, and it's the judge's responsibility to determine that fear. However, President Trump has this new public charge rule. So he's really trying to discourage people from even entering the US to begin with, because he has a new public charge rule, and he's got this rule to delay the eligibility of obtaining that work authorization. This is just another way of President Trump making it difficult for asylum seekers. America has always been known as a country to welcome people for prosperity and pursuit of happiness. Give them opportunity to share their story of why they're seeking asylum. So to see that President Trump administration finalize this rule is very disheartening. Now, specifically from the USCIS website, they announced that this change is specifically to deter what they call aliens, but I'll call immigrants, from entering the United States. So we're not making this up. The USCIS is actually stated on their website that it is to deter aliens from illegally entering the United States and from filing frivolous, fraudulent, and otherwise non-meritorious claims. For our law office, we give clients the benefit of the doubt. We are not in their shoes when they fled their country. Again, this determination, whether it's fraudulent or truthful, credible, is determined by the judge. But President Trump administration is trying to block them from coming in the first place. Now, all these new policies are based from the President Trump's proclamation from April 2019. Like I've mentioned to everyone before, the media and President Trump, it started with the travel ban for legal immigration, even those who are entering with visas and resident status being blocked. Then it's trickled down to the wall, block illegal immigration, and now he's trying to block all legal immigration again. And for the past at least 3 years, he's trying to block people from seeking asylum. My personal standpoint, based on my experience with my immigration practice, I don't believe this rule will discourage people from entering the United States. They are seeking a better life. They're not so much concerned about the work permit. That would be great if they can get a physical card, but they're seeking safety, and they still think of America as a safe place in contrast to where they're coming from. Now, this in addition to the 150-day change to 365 days of waiting, they're limiting the work permit to be only valid for 2 years and automatically terminates when there's been an administrative decision that's final. So they can't try to continue to use that work permit after their asylum application has been denied. Another change recently was that USCIS increased their fees that will take effect October 2nd, 2020. And one of those applications includes the asylum application I-589. It used to be $0. which would make sense for someone who's seeking asylum, but now it's going to be $50 for every application. In addition to these changes, the department has changed the form itself. Let's take a closer look at it because how you answer it, even though of course truthful, could affect you in the future. Hi friends, just want to go over the new 765 application and the actual instructions because they're a lot more strict as we discussed earlier. Page 2 of the instructions lists 4 requirements for you to be eligible for the work authorization. Number 1, you have to wait for 365 days from the date that you properly filed your 589 application for asylum. You need to appear for your biometrics appointment, which is for them to take your fingerprints. And number 3, for you to appear for your interview with the USCIS asylum officer or your court hearing with the immigration judge. And then number 4, it talks about your appearing for your biometrics appointment for your work authorization. And if you go to page 3, first paragraph reminds you to apply for asylum in general 589 application within the 1 year of your entry date. That's very important because if you do not file it by that time or you fail to file by the 1 year rule, then you will not be eligible for asylum. The second paragraph is more detailed and is new, is where they're trying to force people who are seeking asylum to go through a port of entry, such as Tijuana to San Diego or El Paso, Texas. And they're saying that you need to present yourself to an immigration officer, for example, Customs and Border Protection officer, within 48 hours of your entry into the U.S. And that you have to indicate that or share a story of why you're indicate or express your intention that you have fear of persecution or you have been persecuted in your country. Fail to enter the U.S. through a port of entry, then you need to tell them why you did not do that. So they're looking for what they call good cause. I think what they're trying to do is, now going to the form itself, the 765, most of the questions are the same as before, but I just want to make a note of the section on the right side of page 1, other names used. A person who's applying for asylum could have entered the country before, but now this time they're entering the country, they actually have a fear of asylum. So, and who knows, they could have used a different name before, even if it was a slightly different name, or the second last name was different. Or even if it's a nickname, you need to write all these names here. Otherwise, if you do not, then the government will have a determination that you are inadmissible from obtaining status in the U.S. Inadmissible basically meaning a reason for the government to not grant you immigration status. There is a waiver for misrepresentation, but you'll have to check to make sure you're eligible for that. Now to the new questions on page 3, it starts with 30B. Did you enter, on the right side here, did you enter the U.S. lawfully through a U.S. port of entry, and were you inspected and admitted into the U.S.? And so most people would actually check no because they did not actually enter with a visa. And that's what I would expect if someone's seeking asylum. I don't believe many people at all would have time to apply for a visa through the U.S. consulate in their birth country. And so that once you click no, then you have to go to 30C. It asks you if you presented yourself to a Department of Homeland Security officer. So again, a customs agent within 48 hours. So that's 2 days of your entry. And if you express an intention to seek asylum within the United States or express a fear of persecution or torture in your home country. So that would probably be difficult for most people to check yes, because a lot of our clients, they did not express anything to an immigration officer at the time, or they may not have been apprehended or caught by an immigration agent. And so they would likely be denied the work permit if they check no. And 30D asks the date that you presented yourself to Department of Homeland Security. And so if you are apprehended or caught by an agent, then there are documents they would have provided to you that show the dates. And 30E asks the location where you presented yourself to Department of Homeland Security, because again, they're asking the port of entry, if you came through a port of entry. 30F, the country of your claimed persecution, so it likely could be your home or birth country. And 30G, I believe they're really trying to ask for detailed information. Well, the question is, why did you not enter the U.S. lawfully through a U.S. port of entry if you had entered through some other location that's unknown to the government? And so I think they're trying to crack down on all these different locations, and or they're trying to crack down on the smuggling, of course. With all these new questions, it may seem straightforward, but I highly recommend hiring an immigration lawyer who is familiar with the nuances and understands why the government's trying to ask these questions. Of course, you want to tell the truth, but at the same time, there is a way to phrase it to where it's not putting you at liability. Also, please do not hire a notario or notary. It's not just in the Spanish community. It can be in many other communities, because they do not have a law license. This is not their everyday job. We would like you to be very careful in who you hire, because that first mistake can affect the rest of your ability to stay in the United States. Of course, I cannot claim that any lawyer is perfect, but you have a better chance speaking with an immigration lawyer than you do with a notary. Friends, thank you very much for tuning in. These are very critical changes. Please share this episode with your friends and colleagues, because these changes could affect your neighbor or even someone that you go to church with in your small group. If you got value out of this episode, please hit subscribe and hit the like button. And please leave a comment if you have any questions. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you on the next one.